Right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. So I finally got round to covering the Newsnight show from Thursday. We are going to look at the Brexit Party MEP Anne Widdecombe's interview with the Newsnight host Emma Barnett. Well, if you can call it an interview. It's packed with jump cuts throughout the pre-recorded segment they had filmed earlier in the day. This interview is in response to Anne Widdecombe's rousing speech in the EU Parliament on Thursday. Let's hear it again, as it will never get old.
Thank you, President. It's a great honour to speak on behalf of the largest single party in this place. And may I say that if I needed any convincing at all, that the best thing for Britain is to leave here as soon as possible. It was the way that those elections were conducted yesterday. Because if that is this place's idea of democracy, then that is a serious betrayal of every country that is represented here, because it is not democratic at all. And that is just one of many reasons why Britain is right to be leaving this place, hopefully on Halloween. And it is right because there is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. I represent the southwest of the United Kingdom, and I found on my very first day that this place has decided, at least this place hasn't, the powers that be have decided to actually increase the size of fishermen's meshes, thereby reducing their income by 40%. That's what you do here. That's why we're going. News how long, wir gehen, we're off.
Of course, in true BBC fashion, this Ramoning host pays no attention to what Anne Widdecombe actually says during the interview in response to her questions, and just reads off her talking points with the usual buzzwords we have all come to expect from the biased Broadcasting Corporation. Remind you of another interview the BBC had with a Brexiteer in the past couple of months? Now, before we get into the Newsnight clip, if you want to nominate someone for the channel's weekly awards show, Shitweasel of the Week, simply post a comment below with the hashtag SWOTW, their name, and the reason you want them nominated, and I will go through the comments on Monday ready for its premiere on Tuesday evening. Right, let's get into the Newsnight hit piece now.
Former Conservative MP turned Brexit MEP, Anne Widdecombe made headlines with her maiden European parliamentary speech.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going.
I spoke to her earlier and began by asking her what part of the EU has mentally and physically enslaved us, just as slave owners once did to their captives.
Well, now, first of all, that's presuming rather a lot. I talked about three things, just three examples. I talked about slavery, I talked about colonies revolting against empires, I talked about the peasants revolting against the feudal barons. And anybody could see that that was three examples of my basic thesis, which was that if people are oppressed, eventually they rebel. And that is what we did in 2016. We rebelled. And I do believe we've been oppressed, and as much as we haven't been free to make our own laws or to control our own borders, or even to be governed freely by our own elected government, because we're subject always to the overriding nature of EU law.
Well then, we all see the host completely ignore what Anne said in her speech, and found one thing to be outraged about. Anne rightly said she used three analogies regarding those under servitude will eventually seek freedom, as we have seen throughout human history. She did not liken the EU directly to them, She referred to oppression in every term, not just physically. How this BBC host is too stupid to realise that we are not free if the EU Parliament can pass laws on us is beyond me. This is what Anne is talking about. Oppression is her point, not slavery or the colonial era directly. She states in 2016 when the UK voted to leave, it voted to rebel against the oppression of European laws. This BBC host knows this.
But the word oppressed and using the word slave is so laden. You surely know that as a former parliamentarian, that words carry such meaning.
Frankly, if I said good morning, people would interpret that adversely. They'd say Anne Widdecombe's insensitive because it's not a good morning for everybody. If people want to interpret what I've said in a particular way, that is not my responsibility. I said we'd been oppressed. I stand by that.
It is total white privilege on your part to use the word oppression in such a easy, cavalier manner. You're playing to the gallery.
I know that you're bright enough to understand an argument. The argument was there is a pattern throughout history which shows that if you oppress people for long enough and hard enough, they eventually rebel. The comparison is between oppressors and the oppressed throughout history in different ways. In different ways. I didn't just restrict it to slavery. Now, it's up to you. If we can go round and round and round in circles, I was talking about oppression. I stand by what I said. If you want to melodramatically interpret it, that is up to you. I can do no more than stand by the speech I made, which was only 90 seconds long, so everybody can rerun it and watch it.
Did I just hear this worthless commie cumbucket complaining about Anne using words that are loaded? Bit fucking rich coming from a leftist shitweasel who regularly throws around loaded words like racist, bigot, and the oppression of the white male patriarchy on the poor whamming of the world. I mean, come on. Is this dozy tart for real? The BBC throws loaded terms at people every day in their effort to be the wokest left-wing propaganda network they can be, while hiding their many indiscretion. Jimmy Savile, for instance. Anne's point that anything she says will be interpreted as bad is spot on. We have seen the BBC do it when she had a Sky News interview a few weeks back. The BBC cut a few clips well out of context to make it look like Anne wanted to use science to cure homosexuals, when she really said activists want to stop scientists from even looking for ways science could help gay people who are confused about their sexuality. Because, of course, the left-wing media are so remain biased that anyone who voted leave or wants to leave is a racist and a bigot. It took this stupid BBC host less than 2 minutes to forget her lambasting Anne for using loaded terms like slavery and oppression before she throws out loaded words like white supremacy, showing her true left-wing activist credentials. But Anne's response calling out this commie spunk trumpet's bullshit narrative because Anne knows this woman is not as stupid as her narrative is making her out to be right now. Before Anne explains to this woman like she is a child the thesis of her argument, which I'm sorry to say, Emma, is based in reality. I know the words reality and facts are heresy to you, but that does not change it. Anne rightly stands by her speech. It's a shame more politicians don't follow her lead and never apologise for triggering the leftist snowflakes.
How can you use the comparison to slaves and oppression and sit there and expect people to take you seriously? Yes, you had two other examples. I do understand a metaphor. I do understand comparison. But you know the power of words.
What I don't understand is how you can sit there and say perfectly intelligently that you understand I wasn't making a direct comparison, and then talk as if I were. I am not responsible for how people choose to interpret what I say. The real scandal is that 3 years after that referendum, no progress has been made on leaving. That is where the real scandal lies. That is what I am talking about in the European Parliament. I desperately want Britain to be free of the European shackles, and now complain about that if you want to as well.
So, at the end there, Anne absolutely destroyed Emma. But first, let's look at this host asking how you can use loaded terms in a comparison and have people take you seriously. The same question needs to be asked to her, but about her use of the term white privilege, which is an equally loaded term. The BBC sit there spouting every buzzword they can daily. The hypocrisy of the BBC is so blatant they might as well rebrand as the Bias Broadcasting Corporation and own their unofficial name. The host admits she understands the metaphor and the comparison, but proves she does not care because her narrative says Anne is a racist bigot. She cannot deviate from that in the slightest. Anne's response is perfect. Her point that Anne cannot control how other people interpret her words is something I have always said. Offence is taken, not given, so as such, nothing is inherently offensive. Some people can have a predisposition to being offended, but that is on them, not on the person who they feel offended them. The left is full of people with the exact predisposition that I talk about, being offended by everything, which is why we see them screaming like wild animals nigh on every day. The host does not care that Anne's speech was in reference to the fact 3 years on we are still in the EU, and unrightly shuts down her fucking bullshit.
Slaves never got paid £3,900 a month, did they?
They're not. What's that got to do with it? Nor did the peasants. I am paid for working in the European Parliament, for representing constituents, which I've been doing today. I am paid for that. And I have not compared the European Parliament with slavery. The comparison is, throughout history, the oppressed rebelling against the oppressors. The oppressed are the British people, not the MEPs. We merely speak for them.
But you have compared the European Union to the oppressor, and you are now in the European Parliament in receipt of payment. You don't seem very oppressed to people sitting at home looking at you.
I didn't claim to be oppressed. I claimed that Britain, in that she cannot make her own laws and control her own borders and control her own trade deals, that Britain is subject to oppressive law from the EU. I didn't say I personally am oppressed. Although actually I do feel that when I can't rely on my own government to govern but have to look to some supranational body, I do feel that's oppressive. But trying to say that I say I'm oppressed and then using my salary as a counter, this is becoming a silly argument.
You talk about representing your constituents. Do you think your constituents will be proud to be represented by someone who has invoked oppression falsely and invoked and damned, really, the memories of slaves today, however powerful you think that sort of analogy is?
I have not damned any memory of slaves. I have not made a direct comparison. Those were three illustrative examples through history of how people can turn on those who are oppressing them. And as for what my constituents think, I have got loads of congratulatory emails today, loads of them.
Anne Widdecombe, thank you very much for your time.
Now the host moves on to slaves not being paid, as the BBC loves to attack the Brexit Party MEPs for being paid for the job the British public has asked them to do on our behalf. Anne rightly shuts down her bullshit, pointing out that the MEPs are not the oppressed ones she was talking about. It's the British people who are oppressed, because 3 years on, we're still in the EU as I said, and the British people are still under EU laws. But we have the media promoting the idea of ignoring the British people's vote to leave the EU and trying to smear people like Anne. The host tries to double down on her bullshit statement, which is quickly destroyed once again by Anne. The host is on par now with Cathy Newman and Victoria Derbyshire. The whole interview was a complete joke at the end of the day. This Emma Barnett woman is a disgrace to journalism and one of the most hypocritical trouts I have ever heard in my life. Anne rightly puts her in her place and even mocks the stupidity of the things she said. Now I'm going to end the video there, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Remember to like, share and subscribe with the notification bell, as it helps the channel a lot and will notify you when I upload a new video. I would also like to thank the Patreon and Subscribe Star supporters for their support of the channel and all those who donated through Super Chats during the live stream. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all in the next one.